In today's economy, data has become a product of unlimited potential with its own value and a source of new revenue streams. By creating new ecosystems around data exchange platforms, data sharing, data hubs, and data marketplaces, organizations address the world's most pressing challenges. Data ecosystems have become a fundamental component of business competitiveness, enabling organizations to reap the benefits of data exchange. Unleash the true potential of your ecosystem with CDOIQ.
All right, good morning. Oh, it's me. Morning, everyone. Welcome to track 4, Actionable Insights, translating data into actionable insight for the enterprise. And today's session this morning is Diversity in AI. We're going to be looking at the world of AI. So I'm pleased to introduce our speaker, who is Asha Saxena. Asha is the founder and CEO of Women Leaders in Data and AI. And today she's going to be talking us through diversity, fairness, equality, good ethics when using and leveraging AI. We've got time for questions at the end, so make a note of them, don't forget them. We'll also be including our online participants as well, so the session is being recorded. And without further ado, over to you.
Thank you so much. All my career, I've been in technology for almost 30 years now. And all my career, I spoke and presented on data strategy, AI strategy, or technical topic with leadership blend. And when I started talking about diversity, it was really a question. It's like, why am I talking about diversity? And I have to tell you, let me just get started. I'm going to talk about my background. I've spent 20 years in consulting. I'm a professor at Columbia University right now. I teach entrepreneurship and strategy in consulting. I'm also a CEO coach. I coach CEOs on building high-growth companies. And as I am helping CEOs build organization, and I'm teaching students, I teach graduate students on how to build companies and how to use data, the thought of diversity or that I'm a minority really never came into my mind. And the reason was because, and I was saying earlier that when I was growing up, like many of us, never was taught that you go to show up to work, show up with content, and try not to be, I'm a woman or I'm a minority, or focus on what you don't have, focus on the content and try to fit in. During the pandemic, I was, in my career, I feel like I've had various experiences. I've had full career being a programmer. My undergrad is in computer science and master's is in computer science. And I started my career as a programmer, went up the ranks because I was in consulting. I went to engagement manager, started my own business. I grew my consulting company to about 350 people. I built an e-commerce company. I built a healthcare analytics firm, which was the software was sold at Hackensack University Medical Center, Frederick Memorial, UPMC. And now a professor, a CEO coach. And during pandemic, it was a reflection time. And I sat there thinking about, why do I not feel fulfilled? I feel like I've done a variety of work in my profession. Why am I not feeling fulfilled? I was teaching. I have online programs on data strategy and AI strategy, machine learning. I have all courses published online. I teach with Dataversity and Enterprise Data World. I'm still not fulfilled. And so my son looked at me and said, why don't you do something meaningful? And I said, what do you mean meaningful? He said, do something for you. And I said, for me? Explain. And he said, do something for women in technology. And my instant reaction was like, I can't believe you're putting me in a box. I worked so hard to fit in. I am not less than. Don't call me a woman. I am equal. I walk into boardrooms and I'm equal to everybody. And he said, Mom, you're being defensive. Just calm down. No, you're different. You are a woman. You are a minority, and accept it and embrace it. And go out and make sure it's taken care. So I put that on the shelf and like whatever. And I go to this talk where I'm giving. And one of the slides you'll see in my slide, I have the same slide. It said 12% of women are in machine learning research and so on. And I'm thinking, especially with pandemic, the whole technology, the digital revolution really happened. And a lot of businesses who were not ready for technology adoption, they really actually adopted technology in a lot better shape, in faster shape. They were forced to adopt digital technology. And I'm thinking, oh my God, the world is run 90% on digital technology. And algorithms are really controlling our world. And only 12% of women are contributing. There's so very few minority who's building these algorithms. There is a problem. And so how in life they say you connect the dots. And following week I go for lunch with a very dear friend, Neil Godfrey, who was actually the speaker at our conference and tells this story. So I'm having lunch with her, and she was telling me, this is blonde, blue-eyed, grew up in New York, very affluent family, rode horses in 1960s. And she is now at Chemical Bank, one of the highest ranking women leader. And she said in 1970s, early 70s, she had to go home to her unemployed husband, who was an attorney, he was in law school, to get signature to open a bank account in the bank she worked. She was reporting to David Rockefeller. She was doing the largest merger in the history, and she had to go home to get the signature so she could open the bank account. And that made me think. It made me think that the physical world we live in is filled with biases. And if we don't do something about it, who else will? And so the journey started, and my personal journey started. My whole first thing was like, what can I do? It exists. There's nothing I can do. I can focus on my technology and tools. Let me go back to my, building frameworks and making sure the architecture is solid. That's all I can do. But then the thought was that I was coaching these C-suite leaders, and I was teaching this exec eds, right, to take this to the next level. So I started this organization called Women Leaders in Data and AI, which is, quite a few members are here today. And it was for the C-suite leader. We started with the journey was that let's get the C-suite leaders in so that they can create the commitment to create the change. Because the change doesn't happen by one person committing to it. It's the change happens when everybody's committing. And the thought is that how we take one person and make sure that the leaders who are there are safe. And I'm going to talk about that as I talk about my presentation. But really, when I talk about diversity, I love this example. Tay, which was the Microsoft chatbot, and most of you probably heard about that. Tay was built by Microsoft to create the conversational AI. So the whole experiment was that they're going to build a chatbot. She's a 19-year-old girl, teenage girl who's trying to hear what the conversations are on the internet and respond back, communicate back, reflect back, because that's how algorithms learn. They learn from the data. So Tay went out within 24 hours or 16 hours of its birth, became racist very quickly, because what happens with algorithms, they replicate really fast. That's the beauty, right? That's why we're building artificial intelligence, because we want to optimize and speed up the learning process using AI. So Tay basically picked up 2016 was the time when we had elections coming up. There was a lot of conversation, bipolar conversations about issues. And Tay got influenced and basically became racist within 16 hours. And the reason I like this example so much, even though we know, and I'm going to share a lot of examples about how AI can really impact the world we live in and why it is so important. And I love another example, the Netflix story. I don't know how many of you have seen the Coded Biases. Any one of you have seen the documentary? You have seen it? And I have a clip which I want to show you because it's so powerful, even just in the clip. And I'm going to ask the team at the back to play the video clip. It's 2 minutes video clip, but it really makes a point. So I'm going to ask the back to play the video.
During my first semester at MIT, I got computer vision software that was supposed to track my face. It didn't work until I put on this white mask. I'm thinking, all right, what's going on here? Is it the lighting conditions? Is it the angle at which I'm looking at the camera, or is there something more? That's when I started looking into issues of bias that can creep into technology.
Our ideas about technology that we think are normal are actually ideas that come from a very small and homogeneous group of people.
Vast amounts of data at incredible speeds.
Everybody has unconscious biases, and people embed their own biases into technology.
This kid got stopped as a result of facial recognition misidentification, and then used that as justification to search you. This is an innocent child.
Racism is becoming mechanized.
Systemic issues are only going to be hardwired into new technologies.
It's not just face classification, it's any data-centric technology.
Every day, we are all being scored.
Who gets hired, who gets housing.
I am making predictions for your life right now.
The people who own the code deploy it on other people, and there is no accountability.
Management at Atlantic Towers wanted to install the facial recognition software. Pretty much turn this place into Fort Knox.
The technology is being rapidly adopted, and there are no safeguards.
We are socially controlled in a way that we don't see.
Technology that analyzes faces could be biased, but the company is pushing it anyway.
What demographic is it most effective on?
White men.
Show me that it's going to be fair, that it's legal, before you put it out. That's what we don't have yet.
It's going to take people coming together, striving for justice in this age of automation.
Thank you. So I think that we hear about it. The documentary very nicely covers the challenges that the world could face if we don't really address it now. So why diversity is important, why diversity in AI specifically is important, you know, and it's really, as I said before, a lot of women didn't think about, you know, I don't meet a woman who says, give me a job, or I don't meet a minority who says, give me a job because I am minority or I'm a woman. Every one of us want to be getting the position because of our capability. We all come to the table because we want to be seen as solid content, solid leaders, and no one wants a handout. What we're asking for is really thinking about diversity now more than ever before. Listen, I lived in technology world. I was one of the very few women in the room most of the time, and I never really thought about diversity until during the pandemic. And the thought was, oh my God, look, the world is going to be run by algorithm. More than anything else, the data leaders, every one of us, I don't care if you're in marketing and data, if you're a technical leader, technology leader, if you're a C-suite leader, or if you're sitting and building the models or building the architecture or the infrastructure. Does not matter what role you are in the data field. It is time, it's really the time for all of us to care about it now than ever before. I mean, there were times when, you know, we spoke about equality, but right now as technology leaders, our responsibility is so much further than any other times or any other field. And think about it, you know, I have examples here. The facial recognition, right, we saw that. Self-driving cars, you know, speech recognition, everything impacts the bias. Everything we do impacts biases. You know what? The world, and I speak about how we shop, how the social media, how we shop, how we get Uber or order food or watch media depends upon you know, algorithm. You know, I keep saying hello to my friends. Hi, Tammy. And, you know, it's so nice that there are so many women who are here in this room, raise their hand, and there are men who raise their hand saying that I care about diversity. I care about this cause because we are the technology leader and we want to do something about it. And the journey starts from you, and then you spread it forward. And so the whole point here for this slide really is that I want to make sure that we understand that now is really the time that we care. And listen, I was one of the people who said, I don't know what I could do. listen, my job, I went to school to be a programmer. I built technology companies. I built an analytic solution for healthcare. That's my job. I don't know how to solve diversity. And now I feel like everyone, does not matter what role you're in, it is your job to really think about, at least make small effort to do something about it. And we're going to talk about, listen, we speak about example after example about, this is the Amazon story where you write down women and the resume gets rejected. I was telling a story earlier to Matt, and I said, listen, I teach at Columbia University. I like getting 5 on 5. From the student survey, I want to be the best professor in the room. I work really hard to be the best professor in the room. When I got my survey, my rating was 4.1 out of 5. I was devastated. I went to the academic services. I said, I want to sit down with you and understand why my rating is not 4.8 or 4.9. Why is it 4.1? And I wanted to learn about the benchmarking and what are the other professors doing. And she sat down and she said, Asha, before we do all that, I can do that. I can sit down with you and give you all the surveys and do benchmarking and tell you what works and what doesn't work. But let me tell you a story. She said, we did research. We played the same course. We created the computer automated speech, so you couldn't really tell if it's a woman or a man. We put the name Alan, and the rating was 4.8. And same exact course was taught by the same exact voice, and we named it Mary, and the rating was 4.1. And she said, you can't change the biases students have. I have a course that is taught overseas, and they said, Asha, we can't take you. In Asian country, they prefer a white male professor than, a minority woman. And I'm like, really? That is crazy. That is crazy. So these biases exist. We believe it or not. I was recording a video at Columbia last week. And the person who was recording me said, the cameraman said to me, so I said, he or she can start the organization. So I was, in my thing, I said he or she. And he says, no, don't say that. Change it to it or they. And I realized that, oh my God, without unconscious biases, I am doing that. I was doing this diversity talk, and after the talk was over, we were still on the world of virtual presentations. I landed up saying to the other presenter, I said, we're talking about kids, and he said, I have daughter, and I said, I have my boys, and I said, oh, you're so lucky you have a daughter. She probably calls you all the time. My boys don't call me. And the listener said to me, didn't we talk about unconscious biases? I was like, thank you for calling me on it. So even if we think we are fair, Matt, we were talking earlier, we think we are fair. We really make an effort to be fair. But unconscious biases exist, and they're real. So the thought is that, can we do one thing every day? One thing every day to just make a note, be aware. As I said earlier in my presentation, I always gave technical talk. It was all about framework. I wrote a book, by the way. It's called The AI Factor. I think our women leaders, Wilda Group knows about that. So I wrote the book, The AI Factor. You know what I write about? I write about the frameworks. I talk about data readiness. I talk about data quality and governance. I don't talk about diversity because my conscious, I get leaned towards the technical topics. So it is so important that when we are as engineers, we think about technical topics. As engineers, we say, give me a framework or give me an equation which I can go and implement. But truly thinking about the diversity issue is not just about technical equations. It is not just about framework and what tools should I use. It is really starts from you and what can you do. It's the EQ instead of having the hard skills. Hard skills, you can go out, buy a tool, figure out how to remove biases or outliers, and figure out how to give you alerts. And I'm going to talk about all that. And listen, when I am presenting, I'm really telling you stories. My presentation is really the reference document. And you're going to hear and see the slides in it as I go through it. But really thinking about these biases do exist. They do exist. I do it. Without knowing, I do it. We all do it. And the question is, as technology leader, how can we be conscious in our teams, with our clients, with our users who are using our technology? Because as technology, we are creators. We are creating these algorithms which are going to go and implement our biases. So I talk about diversity problem is not just about women, gender, or race. It's about what AI products are getting built, who they are building it for. So it's not just about you and the people who are building it. Who's this getting built for? A really great thing, I was talking to a client, and he was saying that, you know, we are building this. The problem is that we need to understand the products people are using. It's a diverse community. So if you don't have diversity in building these technology, that you can't capture the diverse community. So it's so critical to understand that it's not just being fair, it's being smart about the business. If you want to live in the business where there are women who are consumers, I mean, think about it. The world was built where the financial products were focused on men. Now you have women have power, the economic power. Are you readjusting to the minorities and the women, buyers? Are you really addressing what the market needs? And so really understanding, and that's why diversity becomes an intelligent choice. It becomes an economic choice. It becomes a business choice. So if you are building as advisors to your organization, as practitioner and thought leaders in your organization, this has to become a conscious choice, is to what AI products are getting built, who they are getting built for, and who benefits from their development. Because the whole life chain, the whole cycle chain is getting benefit, from developers, users, and so on. So the problem is not just in the machines, in the algorithms. The problem is what we are coding, because the really good mix of human intelligence that's getting coded in the program. I just a little for the reference. It's a fundamental of machine learning is you show the pictures, you can label the data. It's really machine learning is about self-improving algorithms, right? It's predicting the insight, it's creating the decision making, it's repeating what they learn in a faster pace, right? So the whole artificial intelligence is about machine learning, deep learning that can help you take advantage of, I love the movie, I don't know how many of you saw the movie She, in which the protagonist gets involved with the operating system. And at the end of the best scene, the last scene on that movie is where he says, he's like talking to her, he talks about his day, so it's the operating system, and at the end, he says to her, where are you? Are you talking to somebody else? And so, because she pauses before she gives the answer, so he's like, you look distracted. What are you doing? And so she said, I'm processing millions of requests. And he says, oh my God, you're cheating on me. She said, that's my job, But she said, so she was talking to millions and millions of people to process the information in nanoseconds. And so the question is that this is what's going to happen with the world we live in. Artificial intelligence is going to, at a very speed, going to take what you feed and replicate it. So what are we feeding? How self-improving algorithms is really the key here. These algorithms and models which you're building, it's going to self-improve. And supervised learning, you label the data and it tells you what it is. In unsupervised, it's correlation, right? You dump all the data and it says it's a man or a woman based upon age, the weight and height. So the question is, when you do the supervised learning or unsupervised learning, or you put machine learning, what is it doing? It's recognizing patterns. And so when you say, okay, who's cooking, it automatically thinks it's a woman because that's what the data is. So where is the data coming from? The data is coming from the real world. We are picking the data. Another great story, I have to tell you. So being an engineer, being an entrepreneur, being, creating products and services, I go into this world of diversity. And I'm like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Why am I just going in the world of diversity? But I tell you, it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. I mean, people who know me and I talk to them. I've created companies. I've created, I feel like I've built people. But the biggest reward I feel like I've done here, or any organization, the most fun I've had is building a mission-based organization. The fact that I wake up every day and I care about something so passionately that I want to make a change. And I care about building every member in the organization. I care about everybody's success. Gives me back tons more than I ever give out every day. So I think that my life has become more meaningful because I care about a passion. And it's so nice to have a purpose when you wake up and you go to work and you say, I care about really creating a change is really, really grounding. And I'm so grateful that I found this cause. Being an engineer, being a professional in data and AI, I feel like this is the best thing we can do together, is for next 50 years, 100 years when we are not there, to leave a world a better place, hopefully in our small way. And that's why I feel like WILDA, I call Women Leaders in Data and AI, I call it WILDA. In WILDA, it's not me. It's all the members who are in WILDA who care about this cause. And in every small shape or form, when they come to our circles, we have this focus group circles we meet every month, we care about each other, building each other, and care about making sure that, if I'm talking to Tammy, I care about Tammy and I pay forward. And Tammy pays forward to Aditya. So it's the thought is that how can we even make a small change in making another person's life better? And how that person, I'm sorry for the mic, but anyway, so the whole point, what I'm trying to make is that it's so important that we all care about the biases. The biases are there, gender biases, the mislabeling of African American, high risk. All these are listed everywhere. These examples can go on and on about biases against women. I mean, I was at Stanford in June, and Besa and Dara, we were speaking at the conference, and one of the senior most women, Stanford PhD, she's, I forget which organization, Google or one of the large organization. And we were talking and she said, Asha, this is so real. She came up to me and said, thank you, I want to thank you. And this is the head of architecture, data architecture. And she comes up to me and she said, I want to say thank you. And I said, for what? She said, because you're taking this mission as a cause. And she said, I was on the stage. She said, Asha, I get invited to speak with my PhD thesis and the position I have in the organization, Fortune 10 organization. I get called to speak at the conference all the time. She said, the bias happened even today. She said, I was sitting on the panel. I was one of the women out of 4 men, and somebody asked me a question. They asked a question, and the guy immediately jumps up and tries to answer. And it was so nice. She said, the audience person said, excuse me, the question was not for you, it was for her. And so he stopped him. So he did something to make sure that the woman was heard and seen. And it is so important, and I'm so glad for the male members who are here in the room, because I think without you, this cannot be done. The women can make an effort, but if the guys here in the room don't make the effort, the change won't happen. And another thing, I could have, and I saw some questions, and the questions were about what is the framework, what is the tools we can use to, and I keep saying that you can get the frameworks and tools, but if you don't change your thought process, the tools and frameworks won't help. It really, truly has to start from home. Another really great answer I heard was a guy said in the room, what can I do to create the change? I don't know if it was in the WILDA, one of the conversations we were having. And a woman said, it starts from home. I don't know, Tina, I don't know if it was you. I was talking to Tina earlier. But so he says, so this person said, it starts from home. Why don't you go home and help out at home, do your laundry? And he said, just, start from home. Just start from basic things of making sure that there is diversity. So I thought that was really interesting, because what it's saying is that you might not even think where you can have an impact. So just thinking about small things you can do. I've heard women, I'm blessed that I get to be a part and serve the women leaders in data and AI. And I get to hear stories where senior leaders sitting in the room and the peers, C-suite peer, these are executive directors, will overshadow the women leaders in the room. So what I would ask is just step back. If there are minorities in the room, and it could be gender, race, ethnicity, whatever it may be, just pause and give a chance. Pause and push somebody else ahead if you see someone who you feel could be in any shape or form, comes in the minority category. So the question is, in the room, are we giving chances? I'm so glad that this morning the CDOIQ organizers that said to me, we want women leaders in data and AI to be a critical part of this organization. And that's what it takes. I was so proud. I just smiled. I didn't even say anything. I just smiled. And I said, of course. And because that pleases my heart that people care about this cause and they want this to be an integral part. But the question is wanting enough? And that's why this presentation is not just about tools and technology and not about what algorithm you should use. This presentation really is about awareness. And last night we were talking, Nancy and Megan, we were talking about change. We were saying, what is the critical elements of change? And we were saying that it's really awareness first. It's about changing the culture. It doesn't happen. Change is so hard. I remember from my BlueBerry to iPhone, or going from my IBM laptop to Macintosh laptop, my MacBook Pro. It was, even those basic changes were hard for me. So just you want to hold on to your technology, the old technology, and hard to change. Having a major change like this is hard. For me to say her and him, or she and he to they, was hard. I had to do 2 or 3 takes in my conversation. Change is hard. So this presentation, what I want to leave you behind is to have the awareness. Instead of saying, I'm one person, what can I do? Is what really can you do? Is the thought of making a change. Can you, in your meetings, empower somebody? Can you make sure you look at diverse candidates? Commit to having diverse resumes before you hire someone. Make sure you interview X number of people before you hire. When you speak on the panel, make sure the panel is diverse. I'm not saying that women want to be all women. In my diversity panel in Stanford, I insisted that we have men. We can't have just all women talking about all women issues. We want men in the panel to be talking about these issues. It has to be a healthy debate. It was really interesting. I was overseas, and they asked me to do this diversity. And this is new to me, right? Talking about diversity was new to me. And I grabbed a couple of guys who are my friends, and I took them in the cafeteria, and I said, I have this presentation. I want to get your opinion. I don't want to sit there, all women, talking about the women issue. I want to hear from you. What do you think about diversity? Because I hear guys saying, oh, all the minorities are getting all the women are getting the positions, and now we are not getting the spots. So I hear that, and my friends would say that to me. So I went to these guys and I said, what do you think? Do you really think diversity is a problem? So he started, very openly telling me that he thinks it's a problem. He's like, why are we talking about diversity too much? So he goes on. And I said, you should come on the panel with me. And so I poked him and I said, come on, tell me truly what you think. He says, I go home, I listen to my wife, and I come to work, now I have a woman boss too. He's like, I can't take it. He was laughing. He was just laughing about it. But he was making it funny, and so we all laughed the way he said it. But there is resistance. And that's why it's so important that we bring, our male allies together. In Wilda, we have 30% men. And so the guys will say, but it's women leaders in data and AI. Why do we have to be there? And I keep saying, if you don't sit on the table and hear the women talk about what they're going through, these are C-suite women leaders. You need to hear from them and their experiences to be able to create the fair world. So biases is all our responsibility. And I also talk about how it's not only top-down, it's also bottom-up. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that it's not getting the right tools and techniques and algorithms, and let's just build a model and just make sure that models are intelligent enough to, announce the biases. It is really our responsibility. I really want to focus on the soft skills of the topic here today, focusing on what do you truly take the responsibility? It's my responsibility. Listen, I can say I'm a woman, I'm building this organization. I still think that I fail every day. I still think that in that interview, I landed up not being inclusive, and it's unconscious biases. So how can you consciously keep making the effort? And it's about inclusion. Diversity is not just about, and when I talk about inclusion, it's like what's happening in a lot of corporate America is that you give the position to the woman, but she doesn't have a say. So she might have the spot, but she doesn't have the power. And we'll end up having these talks. We do tech talks and candid conversation. One of our candid conversation was, if you don't, especially as data leaders, if you don't have power, how do you use influence? And we talk about influence as a really key element. And that's what we are hoping that the leaders really focus on, is the influence. But if you don't have inclusion, if you do have, you're getting your numbers just because you need to get the numbers and you're not really giving the power, you fail the purpose. So you want to make sure that the people who are on the table are really being engaged. You know, I love having a discussion. I would love to have like a conversation about what are you seeing and what are you doing. That would be helpful. And maybe have an open discussion. If we have time, we'll do that. So it's about, listen, the studies show that if you have diverse, there are better financial impact. That there is no, so if you want to focus on ROI, listen, we are all data people. We care about our dashboards. We care about what we are measuring. So what are you measuring? You're measuring that there is truly a better financial performance if you have diverse teams. If you have diverse teams, ethical diversity, gender diversity, and gender and ethical diversity. So the metrics really show all the numbers, and you have the numbers to show that there is a business case here. If you have more women, the teams outperform. You know, you would think this is duh, of course, because you have diversity of thoughts. Somebody's challenging you. Somebody's bringing a different point of view. So this should be obvious that this should happen. But how many times we say, you know, a lot of times I would say I end up doing that. When I hired my teams, I get the best person available quickly because I have deliverables and I need to deliver. So I am not spending too much time on saying, okay, where my diversity is. So what do? You need to start building pipeline, because you know that the reality is that you're going to have times when you have to deliver and you need to hire people. And you're going to hire the first best person, right? So you're not gonna say, oh, let me think about the minority. At that time, you're thinking about your deliverables. That's what you're focused on. That's what you go to work for. So what you can do is consciously build pipeline. Now, you know, we say always be hiring, always be hiring. So meet people, smart people, and you say, you know what? I like this person because he or she or they have, you know, the right content. Can I make sure that I keep them in the pipeline when the position opens up? I have enough diverse candidates. So when does that happen? When you're conscious. When does that happen? When you're actually using the best practices in your life as a daily habit. Is it going to happen automatically? No. It's going to happen when you consciously make an effort to make it a priority. You know, another slide just to say impact of diversity on team performance. You know, the team performs better. I mean, again, these studies are all available on Google. You do a little Google search, you'll get tons of research papers and, you know, thesis on this content. I'm not telling you anything which is new. This was actually the slide which I actually presented, which kind of got me started with Wilda, which said 12% of machine learning researchers are women, 15% AI researcher staff at Facebook are women, and 10% at Google. You would think that large organization like Google, which is going to have impact on everybody's life, you know, only 10% of women in machine learning is a problem, right? This is really a problem. Think about it. If we don't make a conscious effort to bring equality, and it's not about just saying that, oh, we are hiring the best person. You can't hire the best person if it doesn't have the diverse thoughts. It's not the right person. So thinking about that is really, really critical. Again, I'm going to keep repeating because I love, somebody asked me, what tool should we get? AI as a tool to mitigate biases. You can have, AI can remove attributes to lead, can learn to detect potential biases, so you can have alerts for the managers to remove the bias. So you can have the tools and techniques. You absolutely, as engineers, that's what you do. What is the problem? How do I solve it? Instantly, you go to the tools and technology. That's what we went to school for. That's what we've spent 30 years doing. That's what our easy answer is. The difficult answer is the human element in the change. That's the difficult answer. So what can we do? Yeah, tool exists to identify bias in data sets, create transparency in algorithms, and so on. But what we need to really look at is, do we have diversity in our engineers, our stakeholders, our decision makers? Listen, you can hire the right programmers. You can say, oh, we are making the change. We are hiring the data scientists who are diverse. Your leadership, is that diverse or not? You know, so if you have this people looking the same way, everybody looks alike, and you don't have diversity in the leadership, it's a problem. Leaders need to be diverse to create the diversity as role models. we did a survey, and when I asked, a lot of women said, when we were growing up, we didn't have role models. We do build a speaker series now at corporations, and Tammy spoke at one of the talks, where the big thing in corporate America is that the women who are in, now we are building the pipeline, right? We're saying, okay, let's build the pipeline, bring the women. There are tons of organizations who are saying STEM programs, build the pipeline, and bring the women. But what we are lacking is that we don't have enough C-suite leaders still in the top places. So what we do is at Speaker Series, we bring our C-suite leaders to the corporations, and we want the mid-managers to see that there can be role models. You can have a life balance. You can have a family and still be responsible in career. And we talk about, the great thing last night, Nancy, you said was outsource. Don't be ashamed that you can outsource. As a woman leader, you have so much responsibility at home and at work. Can you outsource maybe cooking and cleaning and things mundane tasks which maybe you don't need to do and kill yourself trying to balance life? How can you balance the life? Hire good staff at work. Make sure you have solid managers. Learn about hiring the right people and delegating. So I think the people element is so critical, and I think we oversee that a lot of time. Restructuring talent. So what are the best practices? Talent acquisition. The people say, oh, there's not enough women. We have enough women leaders. So I say to organization, if you partner with us, you get to see that there are enough C-suite leaders. So before you go hire senior leaders, look at the women leaders and make sure you're interviewing the right women leaders. You can go to Black and Hispanic universities and make sure that you're collecting the right pipeline. Making an effort is really important. Strong foundation of diverse leadership and sustainable inclusivity. Really critical. Leaders set the tone. If the leaders only do the talk and don't show action, I see a lot of leaders in large corporations who say, we stand behind diversity, but don't have diverse leadership team. They don't have diverse boards. So it's super important that you have the right leadership on the top. And then making them feel inclusive. You don't want in a team, in the microaggression, I think somewhere it talks about microaggressions. So important that you have the right culture, that there's no microaggression towards the minorities. And you might think, oh, there is not, it's just the style. It's not the style. How many times, you would ask any woman, growing up, they would say, oh, give the women the lighter task because they have responsibility at home. Don't give them challenging work, they won't be able to handle it. And a lot of times, the women don't get to the senior role because they never got the challenging roles. So think about, are you pushing your women leaders or diverse leaders the same way you're pushing some other leaders? So are you really taking a step of giving challenging project and building and stretching your team to make sure that they excel? And the team includes everybody, all-inclusive team. Sense of belonging, and this is really about the culture. I cannot spend enough time. That could be another lecture on culture. Culture is so important. Culture is so critical to creating the change. Change is hard. Diversity is a talk. How do we convert that diversity? Because more than ever, I'm going to keep repeating, more than ever, as technology leader, this is our duty. It's more than ever. It's the data leader's duty to make sure that there is a diverse team. There's diversity in the data and AI teams and analytics teams more than ever. It's not enough to have top-down approach, because if you do top-down approach, I talk about the senior leader, that's what our organization is about, but it's also about getting the commitment. And how do you get the commitment? It's about changing the culture, and that's how you get the commitment. Pay parity is so critical. Negotiation, right? How do you make sure again, this just compensation topic in Wilda, we're going to have this negotiation and compensation topics very soon, because this is such a critical piece. I hear everybody saying they don't talk about their salary, don't talk about your salary, don't talk about, and what happens is women don't negotiate hard. They accept. Another thing which we learned about is that the women will not apply for the job if they think that they are 60% or 80% to the job, whereas guys could be 60% and they'll apply for the job. So women, you have to push. I was talking to a large pharmaceutical company where the C-suite leader said, I knew that this woman could do the job. I knew that she had the skills, and I went to her and I said, you should apply. And she said, no, I don't think I qualify. I was like, really? I know what you can qualify for and you're not applying. So the confidence. So the question is, can you push if you see someone else, recognize and tap on somebody's shoulder? Listen, I always say that when I started my business and I became an entrepreneur, and which became a very successful business, it was my manager, who was a male leader, who tapped on my shoulder and said, you can do it. And I said, I don't think I can. And he said, I believe in you. And in the last award gala, some of the leaders met him. And I got a chance to say thank you to him in a big room where he was surprised, and I think his wife was in tears, because it took me 25 years to thank him in public and give him an honor, because he believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. And he became my angel. He became my guardian angel. How cool would it be that if you could be somebody's guardian angel? How cool would it be if you tapped on somebody's shoulder and pulled them up and walked away? It's all about paying forward. And I love saying this, because every time you pay forward, you get so much back in return. So much back. It's crazy. You know, it's like somebody would say, why are you doing this? You know, when you do this, when you actually volunteer to help somebody, it comes back tenfold. So pay parity, I think, is so critical, because a lot of time it's an unspoken issue. People go, they don't know what they should be asking. Is there more? Is there less? How do we negotiate? Am I getting paid? So it's leaders' responsibility, organizations' responsibility to make sure that they're doing the fair pay. And then measure. Listen, we are data leaders. We measure everything. It's all about data, building scorecards, making sure you're measuring. It's all about measuring and making sure you hold yourself accountable. You know, leaders hold themselves accountable. They don't wait for someone else to hold yourself accountable. So how can you make sure that you are holding yourself accountable? I want to leave some time for questions and a little engagement. But I have to say that, when I was thinking about implementation cycle, because it's all about implementation. We talk about implementation. It's about the culture. If you don't build a culture of change, you cannot create the effectiveness in the AI models which you're using. So yes, you can go out, find the best frameworks and best tools and technologies, but if you don't change the culture and you don't make sure that it's effective and you don't apply it to the AI use, you are only doing the technical. What is the difference between the individual manager and leader? An individual contributor focuses on tools and techniques. A manager makes sure that the team is there to build the tools and technique and solutions, and a leader motivates. Leader builds the culture. And for a leader, you don't have to have a title. That's the beauty of it. You could be a programmer and you could be a leader. Leaders build change, a culture, environment for you to get the highest potential from the people who are there. And I just, in summary, it's really about that. AI learns from people, right? People are coding the program and effectiveness. And the diversity crisis is in AI sector is not just gender, it's also race, right? So we can't, even though I built an organization for women leaders in data and AI, I say that women stand for diversity and for all. We are not saying just women should get the fairness. As women leaders, we say we want to be inclusive. We want to bring men, women, and whatever the definition of gender is. We want to bring everybody together to create the change. And prioritize. You have to prioritize diversity. If you don't, it's not really going to happen. If you guys want to learn about Builder, there's a QR code. You can learn about what we are doing in organization. We have studies, we have videos. We can share with you what we are learning. It's a great privilege for me to be able to serve the community, talk about what's happening in different organizations with the women leaders. And it's a privilege for me to be sitting in the forums, in the circles, to hear how men and women, what they care about, what their challenges are. And then we are having a summit November 3rd in New York City in Hudson Yard. Accenture is a sponsor for us in the summit. We also have awards. I should have put awards. Please nominate a woman, a man, or an organization. So if you go to that website, as soon as you go there should be a nomination for awards. Please, please, please. The way we bring the change is we recognize people. So I say to women or men who you think if you're doing something good, nominate yourself. We don't nominate ourselves, we tend to nominate somebody else. You can nominate multiple people, an organization. I might not know who's doing great, but I think we need to recognize people who are doing good. Nomination list will be published, so people will find out that you nominated them. So please nominate as many people as you can. It's really a great opportunity. November 3rd will be the award ceremony, and we'll be disclosing who the winner is, but we'll be publishing the finalists and the nominees on the website. So please, 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 I think awards are really important. Recognition is really important. And with that, I will share my contact information and any questions. See, we were in deep thoughts. We were still having a conversation. Yes, Maria.
Asha, I have a question, maybe some recommendations from you. So, women already come into the room and they're the minority in the room. And so how do you guard against not only being the minority in the room, but then you start making those, kind of those diversity AI kind of questions or comments, and then now you're not only are you the woman in the room, you're that diversity person that's always championing it, and so you
have to become conscious about it. Yeah.
About how do you go about addressing these things, calling them out in a room in a way that can be,
Yeah, meaningful.
Work.
Yeah, yeah. So.
It's her question, but you're a disruptor. You're a disruptor, and that's how they view you.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate it. So first of all.
But for those who aren't viewed that way, right? How do you get the courage, or are there techniques maybe that work?
So let me repeat the question. The question, Maria Villar, a great question, is that especially for women, you're sitting in the room, where one of very few women in the room, and you become a champion for diversity. How do you? You become conscious. Like, I'm one, and I'm talking about diversity. How do you make it work when you start feeling uncomfortable, constantly championing diversity? So it's a great question, and I will say that when you want to change, any kind of change, you don't want to tell people what to do, and we do that in Wilda. We say don't give advice, share experiences. So anytime you want to change, you want someone else to think about that change. So if Megan and I are working on getting in a habit of running, Megan can tell me 100 times, Asha, you should go running in the morning. It's great for health. You can be, but I might not do that because I don't feel the why. So the best way of change is to become a coach and inspire people to create the change. And so you're right. As a woman, you're constantly talking about diversity. Might be seen like, that's all she cares about is herself, or her position. I think it's really about the cause. I think what I was trying to do was create the why. It is important for data leaders to care about diversity because the world is going to be not fair if you don't care about it. A man and a woman should care about it. I am so glad that some men are here. We are in a diversity topic. I land up seeing more minorities than, men coming in, unless men care about it. And that's why, Maria, I so want Wilda to have men in there, and I want men on the table, because if, and especially a few of you who are here, if you don't make a, stand, and if you don't come to the room, so thank you for coming to this room, because you are the reason why we can create diversity. And you are the reason why we feel comfortable talking about this topic and not be embarrassed. My thought was like, why am I getting called for all diversity only topic? I'm an engineer. I should be talking about AI. I wrote a book on AI factor, and I'm talking about diversity. That's where I spent 30 years of my time, and 6 months or a year and a half of diversity organization, I'm talking about diversity. Then you start feeling, am I less than? Why am I talking about this cause alone? So I think that's why this is so important for me to stand up, build the women to be here and saying we support this cause because we are not alone. And I so appreciate that, because we have male allies, Carl Gerber, who's here and running around. He's one of our ally members. Deloitte is a huge sponsor for us. Accenture is a sponsor for us. These organizations, and when men come to the table and they say we care and we want to help, it helps and answers, Maria, your question, is that we need to create awareness, become the coach, not give advice, but let them see and share experiences so they can step up. How do we inspire? it's going to be a journey. Listen, we added WILDA ally members about over 6 months, last June, so almost a year. And the participation isn't as much. And so how do we inspire the male allies to step up and say, we are not embarrassed, you're a women organization, but we are not embarrassed to be a part of it. We had like 3 or 4 men who came to our retreat. How great was that? How?
I'd say the one thing, just one example that I had was
Yeah.
reminded me of that one example where there was a comment that was made in a meeting, and it was really, just inappropriate. And I took that person aside. I didn't try to do it in the public forum, but I took that person aside and actually coached them. Said, what you just said meant this to me that was in that room. And I work for you, so if you want to, make sure that I'm respected, you need to do it first.
Right.
And he never did it again.
That's
But
amazing.
it took a lot for me to say those things even to him.
Yeah. So the thing is the courage, right? And how does the courage comes? And Maria, should I repeat that? So Maria's feedback was, have the courage to give the feedback to the male allies or your senior leaders and give them the feedback, knowing that maybe it was an unconscious bias. They were unconscious about their comment. So give them the feedback as a gift to the senior leaders and let them know because they might not even know. And I think that's a great feedback, Maria, because I think we all need to be conscious and we all need to have the courage to step up and be seen equal.
I have one question for you in the last 4 minutes.
Okay.
Hint. Which is online. And it asks, how do we ensure not to overfit diversity and have the right balance?
I love that question because remember that's what my friends are saying to me, my male friends who are happy to pick on me, they say that. And so the question is, for so long, it has been the other way. And if we are trying to overfit, I don't think we can balance it. So I think it's a good thing to try to overfit right now because, only for a few, and we still haven't overfitted yet. So to answer that question is that we have years to go to overfit. Let's start the journey first.
Good answer.
Thank you for that. And you know what I have to say? If you are getting stepped on, if you say, I'm a white man and I got stepped on because somebody else, a minority it's okay. And maybe your understanding will help create that balance which we need right now. So I want to thank you for that question and whoever asked, and I would say that I do genuinely believe that if we all care about this cause, we will at least come closer to becoming, have equality and parity. Overfit is far, 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 far away right now. Yes?
Do you have any data on where all the deltas lie? Like if we try to take a data-driven approach to this,
yes.
I'm sure we all do, we reverse engineer. We know that the talent pool isn't equal. And I've had these conversations before of, inspiring leaders to go to historical black colleges or Hispanic. Yeah. They typically are like, oh, I'm kind of busy. I'll hire, but I won't go back to that point. I know it exists in technology. I'm curious specifically in the AI ML space if you have any of that data of here at MIT, what does that data look like? At other universities, worldwide.
Yeah.
So that when we deploy resources and we ask, leaders like yourself, other male leaders, to go speak at the beginning to inspire, even at high school.
Yeah. So there are a lot of organizations now. I'm so happy to see there's so many organizations now that you can go to and start building your pipeline. It's not only, so when I started the organization, my whole goal was to build the senior leaders because what I was hearing is that there are tons of organizations you can go to build the pipeline. So it's not just the colleges. You can go to organizations like Women in Data, Women in Data Science. Stanford has a great program. There are multiple organizations where you can go and recruit and sponsor and get pipeline built. Our organization's on C-suite. So if you're looking for senior leaders, VP level and up, we have women who are there. So if you are saying that you don't have enough pipeline, there's a lot of sources where you can go to get the pipeline and get the right talent. The question is, do you do it when you just need it, or do you do it as a regular habit? And when you do it as a regular habit, you consciously look at your pipeline that what is my data split between the diversity and non-diversity, then you will become more conscious about making it a habit on all the time, having that pipeline getting filled in, instead of doing it, at the short time. Nancy?
Asha, can I add a comment to that?
Yes.
I don't think it's just about getting the pipeline in. I also worry
Yes.
about retention.
Yes.
And I've seen this in the organizations I've been part of in the government is we're sometimes
Great,
doing
thank
better
you.
job of recruiting unevenly, but the retention is problematic because they don't feel accepted, they don't feel they get the opportunities, they don't feel they get the allyship and sponsorship.
Yes.
So that's the comment I would offer to is what
I
else
love
can
that.
you do proactively to be more of an ally and a sponsor? So if you start to build that pipeline, what are you and the other leaders in your organization going to do to keep them, engage them, give them those opportunities?
So I'm going to repeat that for the virtual audience. Nancy, great comment. Not just about building your pipelines, about retention. You get the women leaders or diverse leaders. How do you treat them? What kind of power do you give them? And how do you empower them to stay? And how do you compensate them? All that is so critical. And I would tell you that today, even though the question was overfit, I say that we are so far from overfit right now. The women we have, how we are keeping and treating them is actually problematic. And if you ask anybody in the senior leadership, is there fair practices? Very few women would say there are fair practices. And the women who are saying that there are fair practices are adjusting to it. And they're saying, yes, I don't see it like how I did for 30 years, like how many of us did for many, many years. And we don't see what we don't have, we focus on what we can provide. So the question is, we need more allies and we need more sponsors. That we need more men saying that it's okay to have, overshadow diversity for a few years. It's okay, because that's what we need right now. And I think that recognition is so critical right now. Well, I know we are on time. Thank you so very much for attending and saying yes to this cause. I hope you continue this journey, and I hope I see you again and you tell me a story so I can share your story in the next presentation. Good luck. Bye-bye.